just a pastor to learn, and I'm not following, you know, the doctrine of the pastor. I'm using it as a confirmation for what I already, you know, I was already thinking about on my heart. Yeah.
Exactly, because you feel it, right?
Yeah.
If you just close your eyes, and that's the act of prayer. At the end of the day, that's what it is. It's a connection with your best inner self, you know. And it's the truth that you're looking for is already within you. Nobody can tell you what the truth is. It's in you.
Right. Hello, this is Andrea from OurDayDream back again with another awesome guest. This week we have a return guest, Stefan Tomasi, who is a novelist. He was here months back with his book, The Ethereal Road. And this week he is back with his new book, Not Me. So without further ado, here is Stefan.
Hello, Andrea, can you hear me?
There you are.
All right, I made it. How are you?
Good. I'm glad to have you back.
I'm very glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me again.
Digging the hat.
Oh, yeah. You like my hat?
Yeah. Yeah. So you were here before. We talked about the Ethereal Road. Now you have a new book out, Not Me. And Not Me is a dramatic, suspenseful novel aimed at heightening the awareness of the necessary separation of the church and the state. Can you tell me about what that means?
Absolutely. Not Me actually is preceded by an hashtag, like we do in social media. Hashtag Not Me. Because the whole story is about it's about this lady. Her name is Sophia. Sophia loses her husband, and due to pancreatic cancer, and so she's looking for a place to find some comfort. And this church is actually a good place for her to go. She finds this wonderful pastor. His name is Nestor, and he's very charismatic. He knows a lot about the Bible. He's incredible with his ability to convince people, make them feel good. He's an incredible orator, fantastic orator. She falls in love with him, you know, with his ability to preach. And so she and her son, an adolescent by the name of Max, they go to this church and they start frequenting this church. They're very happy about that, and they're very welcomed by the pastor. Pastor looks very holy and speaks very holy words, but at the end of the day, it's not as holy as it seems. So she joins this church, and she's given this ability to do the books. She's an accountant. She finds out that there's bribes, there's payments to overcome child molestation charges. This man is not as holy as it seems. So she grows tired of it, and she denounces him publicly on social media. She goes on Twitter, hashtags, not me, I'm not going to fall for it. People need to know. And she gets into this war with this very, very popular charismatic preacher. And, you know, this church actually has more than 15,000 members. So there's some consequences to what she does. So she challenged him to go on TV. And now they have a debate on TV. And this preacher eventually comes out with all his rage and his true nature. So the message of this is Sophia is a person who believes. Sophia is a person who has the interest of goodness at heart, but she just can't stand hypocrisy and bigotry. And so she does everything she can to bring to light the reality behind the corruption and the bigotry of this man. Unfortunately, this man is a very popular guy, and there will be some consequences for her for going against him. So the story is initially a story, but it turns a bit dramatic because there are consequences to going against the power and being consequences, when you're being a whistleblower. It's always a slippery slope. And so she is encountering some deep troubles by doing that.
Whenever I think about separating the church and the state,
Mm-hmm.
that makes me think about the name. Like you have
So,
Christian,
yeah.
or not Christian, like Lutheran, the Baptist church, the Catholic church, all these names. And so whenever you add the state in on it, I believe that that's the name.
So this church is not a particular denominational church, but obviously relies on the Bible. But the fact that she is lobbying for the separation of church and state is because the church, with more than 15,000 members, makes a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars. Doesn't pay any taxes, and all the money that is made is actually pocketed by the preacher and his loyalists.
I got you.
So being that she's a very strong believer of the word of the Lord and what is appropriate in spirituality, that really makes her feel very, very bad. She becomes upset, and she feels that the true, pure message has been betrayed.
Yeah.
So there's no taxes being paid. Nothing is done to help people. The money is pocketed. She doesn't feel very comfortable about that. She makes a very strong decision to go against the power.
Yeah.
And trying to make sure everybody knows there's no much of a holy person behind this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Sad fact, there's a lot of there's a lot of corruption in the church. I also think that there's just like a lot of corruption in the world. So it's only fitted that, it would seep into a holy territory too, but also I think about like people that I've known along the way that were highly abusive, but out in public, everybody praised them as, great men, and so it's like always this, like, when there's corruption behind the door, there's usually like really making yourself look good out in public, because that adds that balance.
Absolutely. And that's actually very true what you said. It's happening frequently, particularly in the United States, where the true spiritual message that would support mankind and making sure that everybody operates at their best, helping and reaching out to their neighbors and live in a brotherly love, is actually twisted, distorted by greed, by bad agents who are trying to deceive regular people, good people, and take advantage of them, exploiting them for their own purposes. And so that is the message as an author that I've been trying to pass along and to become known. It is a controversial issue, and through this message, I'm trying to bring to light the importance of purity in the spiritual manner of addressing the needs of your life.
Right.
Do not mix with money. Do not mix with everything that drags you down, materialistic stuff, but really focus on what matters,
Yeah.
for you and for the evolution and
Right.
respect and peace of everybody else.
Right. I was going through a hardship not long ago, and I know the church that I go through to, like, they might be lucky enough to get maybe 50 people in there on a Sunday, and it's kind of like a poverty type of area. Like, it's not a richy neighborhood or anything like that. So, and and definitely you don't see like top-notch suits in the church. So it's just not something you see there. And it was like, I didn't even ask. It was like, how's everything going? And I had told them what was going on, and they just like brought over $100 bill to help me out. And I was just like, I was thinking to myself, like, that's what, like, that's what church, because a lot of people will say about the tithes, but it's like, where's the tithes going? You know what I mean? Like, so there's some churches that, because I know that my financial status hasn't been great, so I haven't even give them $100 this year guaranteed. So I might have gave them, not very much, but it's like, you know, that's what tithing's supposed to be for. But it's like, where's the tithing going to some of these mega churches? Yeah.
And that's exactly what the point is about. When you are asking people to contribute and their contribution helps the community,
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. That's how it's
Yeah.
supposed to be. But when you contribute and the preacher goes around in a 350 Mercedes and has a private driver driving him around, maybe he has a jet, maybe he has an apartment in on Fifth Avenue, New York, and lives in a mansion. There's something wrong about that, right?
Yeah.
This is not what Jesus, for one, has ever preached. Just the opposite.
Right.
Has preached poverty, has preached, brotherhood, and these individuals, they distort the word of the Lord and
Yeah.
they twist it to their advantage.
You're right.
So they need to be exposed. They need to be
Yeah.
exposed. We do need, as a civilization, as a community, evolve to the next step. We
Right.
need to be more spiritual, helping out one another, focus on what matters to our personal spiritual development and others.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be about money or the big cars, right?
Yeah. Once we figure out like how corrupt we really are as human beings, we tend to have a lot more compassion for those that are struggling.
Absolutely. And compassion actually is the word. You use a great one because, if you're familiar with the Ten Commandments, I'm sure there should be an 11th, compassion,
Yeah.
because it's nowhere to be found. But if we all have compassion with one another, we would be sympathetic towards one
Right.
another. We would help one another. We wouldn't, hate one another. We wouldn't
Right.
fight with one another. We
Yeah.
would just be in the best position to understand one another.
Right.
I think the
The
world would
greatest
be a much better place.
commandment, the greatest commandment's love. So
Yeah,
people don't seem to people don't seem to realize that, every time that we're acting outside of love, which is die for thy brother, love thy brother as thyself, things like that. Every time we're in sin, but yet we'll call out sin on, people and be like, oh, well, like they're in sin. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Because every time somebody gets underneath your skin and frustrates you instantly, like you're in sin. So like, how are you going to call somebody out for sin? But it's definitely like, I don't know. I was in church and the one day, and they were doing like a missionary thing. And I just started thinking, I'm like, you know, here I am as a mother, like I'm working really hard, you know, and I'm a single parent and I'm struggling to pay my bills and I'm worried about our daydream getting views. And I'm like, and I'm praying for certain things, but then you have, you know, women over in Africa, you know, praying for their kids to have food and they're starving to death, yet they still have the faith enough to keep praying. And I'm just like, this is so much bigger than me. Like, this is so, like, this walk is so much bigger than our daydream or than me working, you know, 40 hours a week or me being a parent. Like, it's so much bigger than that.
Absolutely. And I think I really like that your mission, what you do with it. I mean, I see your posts all the time on Instagram and Facebook. I know that you care, and you're absolutely right. It's important to look at holistically at the whole thing. You know, how are we doing as mankind? You know,
Yeah.
are our priorities that important, or we should be looking better and more frequently to our neighbor, to understand that world. The example that you had is actually very humbling and very truthful. You
Yeah.
know, we worry about small things sometimes, but people can put food on the table.
Right.
A lot of them, right?
Right. And they still have that
And
faith the next day that there's a God greater. So it's like,
yeah,
it's like the faith that they have is humbling to me, but also just understanding like me as a mother, though I struggle, my kids eat. Like they have food. I don't have to worry about them not eating. So it's like, you know, it's so much greater than that. And it definitely needs to be, you know, looked at before having a personal driver and a jet.
exactly my point. Exactly my point. And especially in the last few years, there has been a more frequent uh, invasion of spiritual messages for political reasons. And I think this is not right. I think church and state should be separate. Political initiatives should not be driven by the church. It's a spiritual thing, it's an intimate thing. It shouldn't have anything to do with political donations or running for the House or the Senate. And the whole key element of this book is that if churches want to be engaged politically, they need to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Because in that position, it's not consistent and logical that they would continue to do so. Everybody, you know, they utilize, you know, utilities, services like everybody else. If they want to be actively involved and change public opinion about certain things, they need to participate. And the
Yeah.
money should be distributed to those who need it. It shouldn't be serving to buy a helicopter or a mansion like many preachers have, you know, especially in
Yeah.
this country.
Yeah.
I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
do
think it's
think
right.
I do think in some sense that, you know, God did give his men, you know, the kingdoms and stuff like that, but that was also to keep over, you know, the people. So it's like they were also appointed to like make sure that everybody was taken care of. And once they didn't want to do that, then they were taken out and God would appoint somebody else. So
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think God doesn't want people to prosper. People want,
right.
you know, God wants prosperity, but it's prosperity for all,
Yeah.
for a few, you know.
Yeah. And that's
It doesn't
my
want
prayer.
exploitation.
Yeah, that's
Right?
my prayer all the time too. It's like, God, multiply my funds so that I can help your children. Like that's my thought process on it. Like, multiply my funds so that I can do more to help your children. And that should definitely be the mentality. Like, we're here to be servants of the kingdom. So, like, we're here to give service to the people. Like, that's our whole purpose on this planet, is to be of service. And if we're outside of that mark, well, then we're outside the narrow the narrow walk that God has us on. So we're just kind of like stumbling around. Well, if you're walking so far outside of that narrow path, of course you're going to have demons fighting with your head, and the kids are the ones that suffer the consequences for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. We need to be more close to the real message, though.
Yeah.
I'm not personally against tithing. I think it's a good thing if the money is used on purpose to help out one another, like a big pot, right? Money that could serve for people to pay their bills, to pay their heating bills, to give a scholarship to kids who can't go to school, to put food on the table. There are a lot of good actors, good churches in this country,
Yeah.
thousands of good churches that do good things for people.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that they gain visibility, that people know that there are good people in this world. However, they also need to know that there are bad actors, and those should be exposed.
Yeah.
Those who twist, distort the real verb, the real word of the Lord, they should be exposed. They should be stripped of their right of exploiting and deceiving people.
Yeah.
And that's actually, frankly, I think it's very important. I think that's Jesus is commanding us to do, to go and search for these people and make sure that they follow his word rather than twisting it for their own advantage.
Right. And the sad fact is, modern day, you go to school to be a pastor. Like, you just don't get that from a school. It just blows my mind. It was a couple years ago. I was so angry over it because I was speaking to a pastor, and he was basically like preaching to his people, and they were in agreement with it, that somebody that didn't have God wasn't a son or daughter of God. Like, somebody that didn't believe wasn't God's son or daughter. And I'm like, no. Like that, then what are you doing? What's your purpose? Like, why are you even in a church if they're already deemed to hell? Like, what are you doing? What is your purpose? Like, and then he blocked me. But it's a sad fact that there's a lot of Hail Hitlers out there. They deem people to hell, and then you got all the people on the pew like, yeah. And I'm just like, it blows my mind. But the anointed ones, the ones that actually have that connection and receive the spirit and actually know what God's trying to do on this earth, they're rare. They're hard to come by. And so, and most oftentimes they're poor. They're struggling on. They're giving up like extra job so that they can do this job and things like that. And so, but yeah, then you have, people running churches that just learned it in school. You don't learn that in school.
Exactly. So these leaders, they should be people whose mission is to help, to facilitate, to provide opportunities for others, to be leaders in their community, to help people grow spiritually, intellectually. Instead, they don't. They focus on their own greed, and something must be done.
They got book smarts.
You have to
they
stop this
literally
guy.
have book smarts. But what drives me crazy is that people will just follow anything, like anything. They'll see that other people are following it, so then they'll just follow suit with it. I'm just like, have a mind of your own, dig into it on your own, like read it on your own. I had somebody reach out on a post yesterday, and I had a really hard time keeping my cool with it, but basically saying like my understanding was like a cult. And I'm like, well, that's because you've never read the Bible on your own. You've listened to a pastor all your life and then thought that he could get you into heaven.
I think you hit it on the nail, really, on the head. You hit the nail on the head. We don't need the pastors. That's what the pastors are facilitators. But like you said, it's within yourself. Read on your own, teach yourself, connect with the best version of yourself.
Right.
That's where God is.
Yeah.
That's where God is. It's inside you already.
Yeah.
It's not to be found in a building. You don't need to pay somebody to teach you how to read the Bible.
Right.
You know, do it on your own. And that's exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I use the pastor for confirmation.
Yeah. I mean, that's good, because maybe they know more than you do. You know, from a theological standpoint, they are prepared. That's what they do 24/7. They read the Bible, right?
Yeah.
So obviously they know.
It wouldn't even be by learning. It would be by, so I was like thinking about something, maybe like a couple days previously, or something popped into my mind that morning. And all of a sudden the pastor will speak on it that day.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So like, that's what I do. Like I go into church, I go there to be there for the kids. You know what I mean? Like, or other people. I go in there, I see sad people. I want to pray for them, and I want to try to give them strength from afar. And they don't even know I'm doing it, but I am. I also want to be there to pray for the pastor that he's doing, you know what I mean? Like he's in the spirit, but also I say, God, give me what you need me to hear in this word today that's going to help me on my walk, and so like usually it's like a confirmation that I'll gain sometimes from the pastor, but I don't use the pastor to learn, and I'm not following the doctrine of the pastor. I'm using it as a confirmation for what I already I was already thinking about on my heart. Yeah,
exactly, because you feel it, right? If you just close your eyes, and that's the act of prayer. At the end of the day, that's what it is. It's a connection with your best inner self, and it's the truth that you're looking for is already within you. Nobody can tell you what the truth is. It's in you.
Right. Yeah.
As a child of God, God gave you truth already. It's in you.
It's true. Yeah. I had just put out a podcast the other day. It was speaking about that. It was like, as soon as like you can decide to connect with God, it's like you already know the Bible without even reading it. Like you start reading the Bible later on, you're like, oh, like it was almost like it was already written on your heart already.
Exactly. Like you said, the message of love is universal. That should be the main fundamental message that we need to stand by.
Yeah.
You're right. I agree with what you're saying 100%.
Yeah. So you had said also too that that you draw your inspiration from various spiritual, theological, and philosophical texts. Do you believe that helps you to see things in like a grander way? I feel like we really need to be seekers, not just be like, oh, there's only one doctrine, but I feel like once we start looking into like, there's a lot to learn from all different types of doctrine.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. I think that God gave us a brain, search, question, understand. He gave us a heart to listen, to explore. He gave us a soul to cleanse it. But we cannot do it if we don't search, if we stop somewhere and take it as it is given to us. We need to search within ourselves and reading other texts, not necessarily only the Bible. Other parts of the world, they have billions of people following other religions. At the end of the day, they all point to the same direction. They all point to God.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? And it's the same direction. We're just following different roads. So there's nothing wrong as long as the road is a good road that takes into account goodwill and following or listening to other verbs being spoken. There's nothing wrong with it. Actually, it expands your heart and your soul and makes you richer.
Yeah.
And so you're absolutely right. There isn't one doctrine, in my opinion. There is the essence and the entity of God, absolutely. But there's many ways to skin a cat, right? Isn't that what we say? There's many ways to get to God. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I had just talked about too, like how important, like how a lot of people that are religious, they're kind of like, whenever they think towards like meditation, they're like, that's from another religion. Like, I can't touch that. But I'm just like, you have to silence yourself down. You have to train your mind down. You have to slow yourself down in order to hear God. And if your mind's completely all jumbled up all the time, or you're constantly talking to God and you don't shut up a minute, like God can't talk to you then. Like, you have to train yourself to slow down so you can actually hear that inner voice, that is God talking to you.
Absolutely. And interesting, there's an analogy. When you look at God as food for your soul, there's many things you can eat. You can be fed in many ways. One religion doesn't necessarily exclude the other. It's still food.
Yeah.
There's still words and actions and feelings that take you to the same place.
Yeah.
Meditation I think it's equivalent to prayer, frankly. It's the moment where you shut down the world and you look within yourself. It's an introspective journey. And within yourself, you listen to what your body is telling you, to what your heart is telling you. And when you're praying to God, to the saints, if you're Catholic. But what you're doing, you're just literally throwing a desire, a wish to the universe.
Yeah.
And with the hopes that it would land somewhere, and you have the satisfaction and relief that you seek. And there's multiple ways to do that. You don't necessarily need to pick up a Bible and read the Bible. There's many ways to do that, as long as you are in tune with the good that is in you.
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah. My daughter, she's an atheist, and I have no doubt in my mind that she's going to go to heaven if she would go right now, because she's love, like she gives that away freely, and she just is love. So I know God would never turn her away. But then there's religious understanding saying they're definitely going to go to hell. I don't even know if there is a heaven or a hell. I never died yet, but I can say that she's good. She's genuinely good. So I just think that even for me, whenever I was an atheist, it's like you make yourself your own God. And so like you don't really trust in much of anything. You just kind of think like, I know for me, it was always like bad stuff would happen to me. And then I just thought like, oh, I just have bad luck and that's just what's going to happen for the rest of my life. There was no hope and faith in that. And it was a lot of anxiety because what you seen was what you got. Like, it was just, you were just so congested and you didn't have nothing to give it away to. Like, all that anxiety or frustration you had nothing to give it away to, but you had to keep it all inside. And it was just, it was heavy. I think it's a harder walk. So whenever they talk about death, I'm like, well, yeah, it's kind of death walking as an atheist because you're congesting yourself with all this stuff. So I tell people all the time at the rehab, if they're an atheist, I'll see them all full of anxiety. And I'm like, you see that tree over there? Go to that tree and give all that crap away, like, now.
Yeah, but you see, you mentioned hell. Want to know my opinion? I don't think there is a place physically where that you can call hell. I think hell is on earth. It's right
Yeah,
here,
I believe
you
it
know,
too.
and you make it. Yeah, and you
Yeah,
make it, you know,
yeah.
with your
It's a
own
state of
actions,
mind.
you know, with your own thoughts. I
Mhm.
think those who live exploiting others, mistreating others, taking advantage of the goodwill of others, those are living in hell,
Yeah,
even though they don't realize it, you know.
yeah,
And I think heaven is instead when you're righteous, when you go to bed at night, you look at the ceiling and there's nothing on you, you know, and you're like, I'm a good person, you know, I don't hurt anybody. I only do good things, good deeds. I only wish good deeds for everybody. So I got nobody got nothing on me, you know.
right.
I think that part is heaven, in my opinion. Peace of
Yeah,
mind, inner peace, knowing that you are in the right place
right,
and you are connected.
right.
So I don't think there's heaven and hell. I think they're just definitions, but the reality that we are called to confront is right here through this existence.
Right. Yeah. I
That's my
had
thought.
I had talked to a Satanist one time and he's like, I don't have a soul. And then you'll have people too that will talk about like mass murders and stuff, or like serial killers and stuff, and they're like, they don't have a soul, like they don't have empathy. And I'm like, that's not true. Like, I don't believe that that is the truth. And so, just like the Satanists I talked to, I'm like, well, then why are you being nice to me? If you didn't have a
Mm.
soul, like, how are you being kind to me right now? Like, and so, like, I don't literally believe that. I believe that when we do bad things and we keep these bad things attached to us, it haunts us. So, like, and after a while our perception starts, twisting and turning. And so, like you said, like, we're all gonna create our own hell. And the more bad that you do and you keep accumulating it and you keep it, and you don't have no higher power, but like me as an atheist, you keep toppling things on top of each other, but you're doing bad in that. Like, of course it's going to distort your perception and you're going to see things differently. But at the core, there's a heart there, that really, really needs the love.
Absolutely. We intoxicate ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, we just absorb the negative stuff
Mhm.
that we produce. But you said it right, you know, discharge. Let it go. Let it go.
Yeah. Give it
Right?
to the tree.
Do you have a particular tree you look at, or any tree would work?
I'll just tell my daughter, I'm like, pick a cloud. I don't care. You want to pick a blade of grass? Pick a blade of grass. I've told somebody already, give it to the bed and leave it behind on the way out the door. Like, don't take that with you home. Like, give it to the bed. Punch the bed. I don't care what you do to the bed. Like,
Very true. Yeah, you're always full of good suggestions to have a better life, you know,
yeah.
and you
Thank
have this
you.
positive shining light coming through the video.
Oh,
So good for you.
thank you. I appreciate that. So, you're in waiting right now for your latest book, Not Me? You're in waiting right now.
Yeah, so the book right now is technically finished, but this is my second work, by the way. It's really difficult to obtain visibility and to have a larger number of readers. Obviously, I think this is a subject that needs to be proposed and exposed as much as possible because
Right.
it's very critical for
Yeah.
the growth of people, personal, spiritual growth. And usually, in order to do that, you need to contract a big distribution, big publishing house. But the publishing houses, they have so many books and authors that they really typically don't open their door to anyone. And so one way to achieve that is to find a literary agent. So these are professionals who are basically representing you and talking about your book and your work to the publishing houses. So at the moment, since the work is finished, I am looking for a literary agent, for someone who is, an expert in the field and someone who can understand how this work of mine can be, propagated and brought forward to publishing houses. And I do acknowledge and I realize very well that there's thousands and thousands of people like me that are trying to do exactly the same. But I will wait when the time is right. If it has to happen, I'll get that phone call or that email that would give me the opportunity. Because at the end of the day, I frankly don't do this for the fame. I don't do this for the money. I do this because I think it's important for people to gain their own autonomy and independence and grow internally, because that will only make things better for everybody else.
Right.
If we all were to elevate ourselves in a better place, there wouldn't be tensions, there wouldn't be arguments, there wouldn't be envy, there wouldn't be fights. There will only be peace and love, right?
Right.
And so it's a good mission. I believe in it. And if it needs to happen, it will happen.
Right. Do you got anything else in the works? You working on anything else?
No, not the time
Not
being,
yet.
because obviously, it's all ideas, because this is something takes time, and I have a full-time job.
Yeah.
This I have to.
It seemed like you come
follow,
up with those two pretty quick. That's why I was wondering if you were.
Years.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, because last time we spoke was a year ago, right? A year ago we spoke and we had this interview, with the other book, the Ethereal Road. And it's probably been a year. Yeah, I'd say that this idea that I had was kind of sitting there, lingering somewhere in the back of my mind. And typically you draft it, like you would just jot down something. And most of the work really is about editing, is about cleaning, cleansing the words, proofreading, grammar rules, and construction, and syntax. The story itself, frankly, stands on its own because there are, several episodes in real life where we have preachers that are exploiting, their parishioners and pocketing all the money. So you just need to open the news one day. There's stories like that everywhere.
Right.
So it's just the challenge is just to be objective in the exposure of the facts, because this story is inspired by real events, and make sure that the readers eventually takes home the message of autonomy, independence, spirituality, instead of greed, money, materialism, and Mercedes.
Right.
So that's the idea.
Yeah.
So if
I
you
think
know of
you,
a literary agent who I can contact and be in touch with, please feel free to give him my name.
yeah, yeah. I believe you have an awesome heart, and I believe that it will take place in due time. For Do you have that posted on your website as well? Not me,
No, not yet.
not yet.
Not yet. No, I have not brought that forward because I'm waiting for the connection.
Yeah,
Because while the first book was self-published, and this one I think deserves all the attention it can get. Several people read the other book, and I had very good feedback. But I want this to be a bigger work. I want it to be nationally renowned. I want
yeah.
this to become a bestseller
You're letting the cat out
because
of the
it's
bag.
time. It's time. It's time. People must know. That's
Yeah,
the subtitle of this book. Not me. People must know.
yeah, yeah,
Let's go
absolutely.
out and conquer the world in name of good.
Yeah,
That's what we need to do.
amen. And Ethereal or the Ethereal Road, that could be found.
It's still pretty much anywhere. You go online and you enter it. There's BookBuzz, there's Borders, Amazon.com. It's online, and typically Amazon is probably the best vehicle. You can purchase it there, and they ship it to you within a few days. I think right now it's about $13 a copy, or if you have Kindle, you can download a copy. If you have Kindle, if you have what's that called, premium, I think it's for free. You can read as much as you want. Otherwise, it's $4 to download it, the electronic copy. And so, yeah, it's available. It's the same mission at the end of the day. Try to shake people conscious. That's
Yeah,
what I'm trying to do.
yeah,
It's not a thriller. It's not a drama. It's not a book of spies or murders. It's a book that has an intent to shake conscious and make sure that people, wakes up. People wake up and understand that there's something better out there
yeah, yeah,
than what they see.
yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna post out the links too as well. I appreciate you for joining me again. Um,
Always a pleasure talking with you, and I commend you for all the good things that you do. Thank
oh,
you.
thank you. All right, have a good night.
You too,
Bye.
Andrea. Bye-bye.
Again, if you like this podcast, please hit subscribe because we have an awesome guest every week and I don't want you to miss out. Check the description below because there'll be the other podcasts that we had done previously on the Ethereal Road. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and I'll see you next time. God bless. Love you. Bye.